Good evening, Prashant.
Good evening, Srinivas. A pleasure to be here with you.
Thanks for coming online for our YouTube channel, M4. So, M4 meaning a manufacturing forum. We are trying to put videos here which can help the manufacturing companies. I think people in many industries learn better from each other than formally in some training programs and so on. So, we thought we'll share the experiences of senior people and technology people like you, so that the viewers can benefit from that.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me here.
Let's look at some specific areas where things are becoming tough because of the current situation. Like one of the areas that I'm able to see is the interaction with customers. Now companies, earlier it was the travel was free, so companies were coming, the customers were coming to the suppliers. There used to be interactions, and even the suppliers also will go to the customers and prospective customers. So it was quite fine. I was able to go to the companies and then present myself. But now it has changed. I can't travel so easily, and it looks like I think it is going to continue for at least a few more months, if not years. And in this situation, Prashant, now I'm coming a little bit specific to this problem. What do you think companies can do to reimagine the connect with the customers?
Sure. So that's I think a dilemma that a lot of businesses are facing today, and there are technology solutions to this particular problem. There are excellent collaboration solutions that can make sure. We're using one, for instance. Today we are not meeting in physical office, but we're meeting over a Zoom call. There are wonderful technologies, for instance, from Microsoft, which give you the ability to literally sit face to face or sit in an auditorium kind of scenario, make those presentations, do whiteboarding, do collaboration in real time as if you were just there. So the problem is not with the availability of technology. The problem, I think, today is with the mindset. You need to be prepared that this is a new normal and that this is the way that you need to go about using tools and technology. So if you want to use, for instance, and since you wanted a little more specific answer, I'll probably take up a piece of technology as an example and then tell you how this works. So you look at Microsoft Teams, which is what we use at work every day. Anything that I want to do with a customer is I can do here. I want to do whiteboarding. I want to share files. I want to pop into a video call. I want to make sure that I speak to multiple people at the same time in an auditorium kind of atmosphere. I can do that. Today's modern meeting technology can enable that and more. And what's coming up is literally you can place a hologram of yourself and visit each other virtually. And coming to manufacturing examples, there are technologies such as augmented reality and virtual reality, which can transform the entire experience. So I talked to a startup a few months back, and they have this wonderful augmented reality product, which does a lot of things. So it's a simple, if you've seen those Google glasses or a Microsoft HoloLens, you know what I'm talking about. It's just a little more heavier than a regular eyewear piece. But it gives you the ability to add digital information and overlay it on the real world experience that you see. So they're enabling better training. They're enabling troubleshooting. So if you want to go ahead and solve a problem with a complex piece of machinery, normally you fly somebody down and wait for a lot of time, spend a lot of money, and still you may not be confident of resolving the problem then and there. But with this kind of technology, the person, if I am the engineer on the opposite side, if I am the manufacturer which is supplying the machinery, and if I have my machinery installed somewhere else, all that the customer needs to do is have one of his technicians wear the glass, and I will see what the technician is seeing, and I can direct him in real time, and I can get the problem fixed without having to travel, without having to go in person. It's faster and much more real time. Definitely beats taking a train or plane or whatever the mode of transport may be to reach there, and then figuring out you don't have the right equipment. Nothing of that sort really happens. So I think it's a mindset and a shift that needs to happen. And today we have seen a lot of that. I would say the percentage of people who have logged on to a video call, say 4 or 5 months back versus now, is transformed, right? Today, almost anybody, be it a young person who's attending classes via this whatever meeting platform that the school is given, or be it an elderly person who is trying to connect with his or her family. Everybody today is comfortable doing a video call. So people adapt faster than you think, but what is really required is a mindset to go ahead and drive the change and say that this is how we could do it. And in any sort of change like this, there are two sides to a coin always. There is disruption. So you can look at, oh my God, I can't visit my people, my customers, and therefore it's a disruption to my business. I would urge you to look at the opportunity side. There are two sides to the coin, disruption and there's opportunity. The opportunity is I can now do those customer meetings, do those interactions using modern technology, real time, and in a time where I could do maybe 2 or 3 customer meetings, today I can do 10 customer meetings in a day. And I can do it at virtually no cost. It's good for the customer, it's good for me, and I can plug in a lot. And this is where we can get really creative. So if you want to, for instance, this is a great opportunity for you to install intelligent automation or intelligent devices in your machinery. So you can have IoT work and give real-time data back to you. So you can do predictive maintenance. So what if you knew that the machine that is running, that a machine of yours that's installed in the customer site is going to fail. Some component in the machine is going to fail because of wear and tear, but you know that well in advance. So you get an alert saying that, okay, machine so-and-so is probably going to face downtime because of component wear and tear. You can call the customer proactively and tell them that, okay, this component needs to be changed. Let's schedule maybe 8 hours of downtime. And when you tell the customer this in advance, they are able to schedule the downtime well in advance so that it doesn't affect their businesses. It definitely beats finding out that something is not running in your factory when you go there in the morning. So this can be done. The data that you leverage from hundreds of thousands of these interactions, of this sort of interaction, can go ahead and improve your internal processes. And let me kind of paint that picture for you. So let's say you are facing wear and tear with a particular component. You can now analyze using data that did the wear and tear come because of maybe a defective design of the machine, or is it because of a supplier problem, a component supplier? This particular supplier has maybe this part is bought from 3 different vendors. 2 vendors, it runs for whatever 50,000 cycles, but in this third vendor, it runs only for 10,000 cycles. So it cannot be a machine design fault. It has to be a supplier quality part. So can you go back to the supplier and then tell them, please make sure that you are able to give me a better quality component. On the other hand, if you're facing the same problem with all the 3 suppliers, then it's probably a design fault, because if your engineering tells you that it should last for 50,000 cycles, but your data tells you it lasts only for 10,000 cycles, then what is it that you can do in terms of going back to the drawing board, feed the information right back to your PLM systems, and then tell that, okay, let's re-engineer the product so that it doesn't cause premature wear and tear. So the possibilities are virtually limitless. You can develop an entirely new business model. Take Rolls-Royce, for example. Rolls-Royce makes plane engines, and obviously these are some of the most expensive pieces of machinery, the most complicated pieces of machinery on the planet. So if you want to, from a model where they were selling plane engines upfront for, I don't know how many over 100 million or 200 or 300, whatever it costs, to moving to a model where they will sell you flying hours, they will sell you engine as a service. So you will charge your customers, or they charge your customers per flying hour. And they use a whole lot of analytics, a whole lot of intelligent sensors that keep relay information back and tell them about, okay, when you need predictive maintenance, when you need changes, and how do you improve your engine design? How do you improve your entire supply chain so that you're able to deliver a better experience for your customers? And your customers pay per hour of usage rather than paying a huge amount of money for an expensive engine. And then, as you know, airline industry downtime or a plane sitting on the ground is the worst thing to happen. You completely avoid that kind of situation. So, and you can apply this example. I just mentioned this example because it's something that everybody can relate to. But you can take this example and apply this to any industry. If you are, for instance, into say a foundry, you have a concept of in IP called a digital twin, which enables you to replicate your entire factory in real time. So you have essentially a digital version of your factory running on your computer, and you have various sensors reporting all sorts of parameters back to you on the screen. So for instance, what is the temperature here? What's the pressure there? What's the motor speed? Is there you can even use cameras and machine vision APIs to tell you, are there any physical visible defects on the machine? You can use weight sensors to tell you if things are going. I mean, this is just, you can go on and on and on. The sky is the limit. But what it requires really is a will. So there are two aspects here, right? There's will and there's skill. So I would say you need to have the right will to make sure that, yeah, I want to leverage technology and I'm prepared to invest in technology because I want to drive those business outcomes. And two, skill, which basically means you will go ahead and invest in the right technology. Don't compromise here. So will a manufacturing, if you are into manufacturing and you want to buy a CNC machine, will you compromise on the quality of the machine that you're going to buy? I'm sure you will probably buy the best machine that fits your budget and your requirement. The same goes for technology. Don't shortchange your investments in technology simply because you don't understand it. Because technology today is the heart and soul of any business. So there's this popular saying, right? Every business has today become a software business. And that holds good for manufacturing because your IP today lies in this software ecosystem that you're building of all the sensors and the data and the business model that you're building around this data. That's your IP today. Your IP is your asset today, not your machines or not your factory. And you realize how big value IP can when you look at the valuations of some of the software companies. So if you look at something like an Amazon, which has got zero, compared to maybe an equivalent sized Fortune 500 manufacturing company, they have a fraction of the physical assets, but their valuation is coming close to $2 trillion. How is that? That's simply because of intellectual property. That's simply because of the power of data that they have there. That's the direction that the whole world is going to. So it's time that all of us start thinking along in this direction and start applying this into our business.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think what I understand is you rightly said, I think it is a mindset that has to change. And I would imagine, especially when you're talking about outside, as well as customers or suppliers also, I would say it's the same thing. It is the mindset of the customer as well as the mindset of the supplier who is trying to influence him. And if the supplier is able to show a better value to the customer or a totally new value to the customer using the technology, I think there is no customer who will say no for this different way of engagement. So I think it totally depends on how a company can change the mindset within their company and then present a better engagement, a better solution to the customer, where he will have no other option but to agree. So that you put it very beautifully.